right. Hello, everyone, one and all. Thank you very much for joining us. We have Padre, our special guest today. Hey, Padre, how you going, mate?
Hello. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, and we have Danny from Nostalgiahammer Hobbies. How you going, Danny?
Oh, I'm not bad at all. I hope
That's
everyone
good.
else is
And
doing
Tom.
brilliantly.
Yep. Good on you, mate. And Tom, how you going, mate?
Hey, I'm all good, thank you.
That's good. Good, my friend. Now, Tom, we've still got that same sound issue, mate, as last time.
You know what? I'll just put myself on mute. How about that?
Just put some headphones in, dude. Put some headphones in. Just try that. If you got headphones. Yeah, headphones usually. Yeah, so it's now gone again. Yeah, so we had the same thing with Tom. So we got Tom sorted out with his with his sound thing. I'm getting a lot of feedback there. So just try some headphones, Tom. You'd be fine, mate. But thanks, guys, for joining us. Really appreciate that you're coming on today, and hopefully doing a successful Splatter Natter with us. Let's see who's in the comments here already. Sci-Fi's here, Emperor Jim, and Golfag. Okay, guys, welcome, and hope we get some painting done today. We'll just go around the group and see what everyone's working on. Padre, what are you working on today, mate?
I don't know the official name for them. The elves that ride stags. They've been primed for some considerable time, but I thought I'll make a start on them. They're potential recruits for the wood elf player in my campaign. If he doesn't take them, then I'm painting them for no reason whatsoever. But if he does take the option and put them in his forces, then I'll feel better about this.
Okay. You got them ready on if they're like a substitute, ready to come on.
Yeah.
Whenever he needs them. Oh, that's good. Danny, how about you, mate?
I am currently doing a little bit of recording whilst I'm doing the live Splatter Natter of my next video, a bit of a Terminator rescue one for Rich from Bring Battle.
Oh, all right.
Rescuing a load of, I think they're Rogue Trader era Terminators.
Okay. We'll need those. He's done his Space Hulk video, which I watched yesterday, and they'll come in real handy now.
Yeah, it's part of his Blood Angel force I'm doing for him. Close combat ones, quite good. Bit of a couple of repairs needed in there, here or there, so that should be quite an interesting little rescue video.
Nice one, mate. Nice one. And Tom? We can lip read. Oh, we can show. You can show it. Yeah, I saw you looking at the Orc and Goblin books. You got the lovely wyvern there, mate. That's lovely. Yeah, good on you, mate. We'll do some sign language with Tom, I think, tonight. That might be a good one. Here we go. We've got Tom, another Tom, Dwarven Mustache Hobbying, joining us here, and Bleetron, and Fat Man's Kitchen. That's a good username. I like that one.
Dwarven Mustache put a really good video up today of his newly completed Fimir army.
Yep.
Nice
watched that last night. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it's good to. A lot of that I think is from Oakbound Studios, isn't it? All those models.
That's right. Yeah.
I think if was it Oakbound Studios needed a good sponsor or something, I think Tom is doing a great job for him. I think on his behalf, because everything he does is all about that, about his products and stuff. Had your early morning cigarette, mate, then, Danny?
Oh, excuse me. No, I'm actually doing my best trying to give up the old nicotine tobacco and stuff.
Good on you, mate. Well done.
Doing not too bad. I've only had I've had three or four today so far. So that's
pretty good, mate.
It's the very end of the day. That's not bad, actually.
That's great.
My last instead.
The vape, okay. Yeah, my last cigarette was I quit smoking about 7 years ago, but my last cigarette I had was on my birthday last year, it was so disgusting. I thought I'd never ever put one of those things in my mouth ever again. That was it.
Yeah.
It was a good experience actually. I'm glad it tasted so bad. I felt like I was going to throw up. So that was the last one, mate.
I'm 57 and I've had one cigarette in my entire life, in my mid-20s, and I managed to get the smoke into my lungs, which was no mean feat because I couldn't work out how to swallow it. But I finally worked out how to do it. And this one normal nicotine cigarette had me on tiptoes thinking, wow, this is amazing. And then I had a bad throat for 3 days and thought, nah, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah, no, I can't say it's a good habit to have gotten into, to be honest.
Yeah, it took me a long time. Sorry, this is like a non-smoking, like how to quit smoking show. But yeah, it took me a long time. The thing that someone asked me, I think one of my painting students, good mate George, he said, "Josh, how did you quit smoking?" Because his dad was in a hospital because he'd been a long-term smoker and he had a lot of health complications because of it. And he said, how did you quit smoking? I said, mate, my wife. You know, if you want an angry Japanese woman, on you all the time with a katakana, then that's how it happened. You know, I had my lovely wife there to remind me never to smoke ever again. Otherwise, there'll be consequences. Limbs will be missing. And it worked a treat, mate. Worked a treat. So I'm going to hire my wife out to anybody out there who wants to quit smoking in a real hurry. I won't charge you much. And yeah, mate. Yeah. No, it was hard to do that. Bloody hard.
A word of caution: giving up smoking. In the mid 17th century, it was considered a very good ward for bubonic plague. So, you know, you want to be careful giving it up if there's any plague going around, because it can be injurious to your health. Oh, and don't bath too often either, because that opens the pores on your skin and lets the foul miasmas in, and you'll get the plague again if you bath too much. Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
I was watching a really interesting show on YouTube that popped up yesterday about medieval vampires. Like, you know, the people of the medieval age considered certain people to be vampires or something. They'd like rose from the dead, or they'd make noises after they died, and they'd have to like basically desecrate their tombs and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, that was really interesting. But Padre knows a lot about all this kind of stuff because he's a bit of a historian in his trade and his studies. And you're a part of Big Small Worlds, mate. So if people haven't listened to our interview yet about all of that, can you give us a rundown about what Big Small World is?
Oh yeah, it's the video version of a very long-running Warhammer Fantasy Battles campaign. It's admittedly it is 8th edition, but you wouldn't know because it's done exactly as we've done a campaign since 1st edition in 1983. And I don't really talk about that. Everything's storified, not fictionalized, because it is a representation. Certainly the battle reports are a representation of exactly what happened on the field, but they've been turned into stories and they're presented as stories. The bits in between are presented as everything from letters to histories to treatises to conversations between NPCs about things. But yeah, it's been going for over 10 years. There's 6 of us involved. Well, 6 players. I basically do all the story writing, pretty much all the... I mean, basically, they play the game. They give me their orders, and they'll come and fight the battles, which are quite rare because of all the nonsense I do, which slows us down. But yeah, and until now, I've not really been on screen apart from that video with you on the Patreon video relatively recently, Josh. But yeah, everything's been done Jackanory style. I don't know if that reference means anything to Australians, but it's just me talking over the relevant pictures to whatever's going on in the story, which in a battle report is easy because you just show the picture you took of that moment in the battle. But in the many connecting stories, that can be fun. Coming up with all the different pictures and a way of having something visual and relevant on the screen every moment of the story. I tend to write the story first and then think, right, how the hell am I going to illustrate this now with toy soldiers and model scenery?
Yeah.
Right. That sounds really interesting, actually. Well, different as well. Yeah.
I think it is different, as in I've yet to encounter anyone else doing the same.
Yeah.
And you'd think someone over the last however many years it is I've been doing the videos would have said, oh, your channel's like, but no one's ever said my channel's like X, Y, or Z. Z, I said it the American way. Z.
Come on, let's admit it. Z sounds better. It works. Okay, I'll just show people your channel, mate. Hang on a tick. I'll get that up on the screen at the moment. But yeah, it's it gives me your videos give me the feeling of watching those stop-start animations series of videos like from the UK back in the 1980s or so. I hope that's a compliment, Padre, but it gives me that sort of warm, fuzzy feeling of.
You can compare me to all these things, but just add on for grown-ups at the end, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
It's Thomas the Tank Engine for grown-ups.
Yeah, that's it. That's
for
exactly right. It is Thomas the Tank Engine for like for war gamers, basically, right?
Yeah.
Or hobbyists. So
I'm not sure many 5 to 10-year-olds would understand it because of the language, not crude language, just long words.
Yeah.
And archaic
your
words.
channel is much cleaner. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. No, that's I really enjoyed watching your videos for that reason. So it's got a lot of really kind of warm and fuzzy feeling kind of atmosphere to it. I think the lighting, and the old school sort of presentation of the miniatures and stuff like that. So that should be coming up on the screen now that I'm sharing it. That's all your videos here, which is quite a long,
If you go,
entertaining ride
scroll
here.
up a little bit again. Scroll up a little bit.
That's it, mate. That's as far as we go.
No, I must mean scroll down. I meant make the things go up. I'm obviously talking backwards. Stop. Too quick. Too quick. Way too quick. I can't find it now. You went, now stop. Can you see that image there that looks kind of grey with some kind of vampire bishop at an altar with a crozier in his hand?
This one here?
No, that's a mercenary kneeling below that.
Oh, here, sorry. Here, this one.
That
Unholy.
That was real fun coming up with the pictures for that. I had little candlesticks with the candles on, and obviously I painted the candles. When I set up the light to cast the shadows, I realised you could see the shadows of the candle flames.
Yeah.
They were past, and I thought, well, that's not right. I had to actually Google it. I thought, hang on, does a candle flame cast a shadow? I mean, I did well at school, and I didn't know that it didn't. Anyway, so I had to edit out the shadow. You have to notice things like that. I thought, I'm going to have to edit out the shadows. I did replace the painted candles, which I thought looked pathetic, with little actual candle flames I'd cut and pasted from another image. But yeah, remembering to edit out the shadows. You've got to do these little touches. Or you do if you need.
That's lovely, mate. So yeah, well, people can get be entertained by your videos, and there are a lot, aren't there? There's like over 100 of these here,
at
least.
Video 128's just gone out,
Right,
and that's not including the specials. The specials are in a separate list, and they're all the modelling and painting videos, where there's all sorts of stuff. If you're into Old Hammer, there's some really ancient stuff in amongst those.
Oh, there you go. There's a special videos here. I didn't realise that. So
a lot of scratch building and such goes on there because I'm a cheapskate. If I can make my own version of something out of lollipops and old sprues, then I will do it. Not lollipops, they melt. Lollipop sticks.
Okay, so there you go, guys. If you're looking to be entertained, I'll add the link here to the video description as well. Yeah, you can go check that out, and you've got like hours, if not days, if not months of entertainment there to go through on Big Small World's YouTube channel.
People keep announcing on the first video, I'm about to go through it. And then about a month later, they emerge and say, I've just watched them all.
Yeah, I don't know if you can you see that as well? This this new screen. This is the Crown of Command. This is the Crown of Command podcast, so you can check out my interview with Padre here. That was recorded on the 8th of May. Play that in the background when you're painting or doing other stuff. So there you go. You got double Padre there if you want it. So there we are. All right, nice one. Okay. So look, we may have some people here that follow your channel here. We've got Wingster 600. Let's see, players in the chat for poor Bianchi. Bianchi's about you can say it a lot better than I can, mate. Yeah. I'm Australian.
Well,
so
Wigster 600 prayers in the chat for poor Biagino's lost soul, and Sci-Fi 72 are talking about the same thing. Sci-Fi 72 says, right. I hope the priest that became a vampire, that became a swamp resident, makes a comeback. Everyone loves Biagino. He appeared in the first episode. Thing is, when you do a thing like this, you can't know whether any character, no matter how much you like them, is going to survive, because they can just die on the tabletop. If they're overkilled, there's no way they can come back. If they're a character and they die but weren't overkilled, there is a recovery table. So occasionally they can be injured or captured, etc. But yeah, Biagino, by pure dumb luck, survived most of the campaign, and even now isn't dead, even if he has disappeared into the swamps.
Wow. Well,
he went from a very portly priest, well, actually, more like a monk, to a very thin and gaunt-looking vampire archpriest. He went from the Church of Moor to the Church of Nagash.
Okay.
The Church of Nagash wasn't a real church. It was a mockery of the Church of Moor, because most of its zombie soldiers were the resurrected cultists from the Moorites Disciplinati di Moor. So they were just mocking the living by having their own corrupted version of the Church of Moor.
Nice. Well, if you have any burning questions about the campaign that Padre's running, and this is your chance, so get your questions in, guys, and please communicate with us as we do our Natter today.
I'm seeing a lot of people on the comments that watch. I've got a player on, Gibeus 1.
Right.
He was Seer Lord Erlach. He had an ignominious death. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. That's a spoiler. Checking in for a little while. He's now someone else. Yeah. But I shouldn't have said that, because that's from several videos in the future. I hope no one caught what I just said. No one expects a Skaven to live a long and prosperous career.
Not if we can help.
Unless they're extra specially sneaky.
Yeah, he wasn't being sneaky when he died. It was quite an embarrassing death.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He was reveling in what he'd done. He was literally dancing about in joy at the stupidity of the enemy. And, they shot him. All happened in game. All done exactly. All the dice rolls are in. No smudges, because everything's games mastered to a T. Every game's got me games mastering it. No one's in. We can't force events. We can make plans. Well, the players can make plans, but they can't make up the story. The story is just what happens.
There you go. That's a lesson in life there. Don't gloat over your victories, I suppose. You could get shot.
Gibeus says he's completely blameless for Seer Lord Erlach's death. He had a ridiculous second name. What was it? Lord Erlach Asher Scrotchaw. Deliberately made so that it would be hard for anyone to pronounce.
Yeah.
Asher Scrotchaw. Yeah, something like that.
Scrotchaw.
Asher Scrotchaw. You have to say it in a
Sounds
Sean
all
Connery accent.
Spanish. Yeah. I know we've got my old mate Brush Babbles from his smoke dungeon in here today, so saying hello, which is great. Cameron's here, which is good to see, and Eric is here. Gigi, Damien is here as well. GM Cody, how you going, mate? Planet Tobor is here as well. Good to see you, mate, as well. Why aren't you guys coming in and chatting with us? And you can come in here and paint with us. Damien Broadley. Sorry if I'm sort of squinting at the screen. I've got my different other glasses on. I'm an old man.
Damien Broadley's another player. He's Lord Alessio
right.
Falcone of Porto Maggiore.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay. Another player. Wow. Nice. Eric, thank you very much for your super chat, mate. I appreciate that. And yeah, it's our 50th anniversary for the podcast. So appreciate that, mate. Oh, here we go. There's a question for you, mate. How ahead are you of the videos in the live campaign currently?
Haven't worked it out exactly, but I think I'm probably somewhere in the vicinity of 20 videos behind where the campaign is. I was 100 videos behind where the campaign was a couple of years ago, but now I've got up to about 20 videos behind. At which point the campaign will continue, but I will be making the stories at the same time I make the videos, which may feel like either more or less work. I can't work out, or exactly the same amount of work. So yeah, I'd say about 20 videos.
20. Okay, mate.
I'm due to make a new special video, but there's just too many things I could do a special video about that I can't make my mind up what would be best.
Eye of the Maelstrom's here as well. That's John in the UK. How you going, mate? Yeah, appreciate people in the chat. I hope you guys are painting as well. So don't be shy. Get your paint brushes out and join us in this celebration of painting.
Where are Tom and... Oh, it doesn't say the name. It says Nostalgiahammer Hobbies. That's confusing me.
Danny.
I thought it was Danny, but then I looked at that and thought, that's not what someone said earlier on. Where are you two from? You sound British.
Oh, yeah, I'm down south, Poole.
All right. Yeah. Did a reenactment event down there back in the 80s and foolishly thought, because I was going down on the train, I thought, should I take a sleeping bag for camping right next to the beach in my tent?
No.
Or take a dinghy for having some fun in between the battles? I couldn't carry both because I had too much stuff to carry. So then I came up with a genius idea of I'll take the dinghy because I can wrap that around me and use it as a sleeping bag. My God, a dinghy is not in any way suitable for keeping yourself warm right next to the beach in Poole. I was absolutely shockingly cold. I don't think I've ever been as cold before or since.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it can get a little bit nippy down here, but then again, it's not too bad most of the time, to be honest. At the moment down here, it's lovely.
Yeah, but in the middle of the night, right next to the beach, it can get cold, even in August.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it can at that.
The moral from that story is don't use a dinghy as a sleeping bag.
Yeah. I think I've worked out a nice little order for my videos to be done. And next up, got this one to do for. I'm just editing the that one for the Chaos Veterans. Editing that one up. That's a lot of fun to edit. It's not going too badly. And then I'm doing this Terminator one. You up?
I was gonna say they look really, really nice. Those Chaos Marines you did, mate.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, no, I was quite pleased with how those tentacles turned out in the end, to be honest. I think the paint job did help, especially with that green one. That I'll be honest, that green one it didn't look the way I wanted it to be fair, because I was trying to do the one out of the Codex where it's a little bit thinner, and I went a little bit too chubby with my the bit of green stuff that I did underneath it. But by the end of it, I thought I could rescue it with a bit of a paint job on it, and I think I did all right with it in the end.
All right, you mate. Well, I think they look great. Yeah, what I've seen on Instagram.
Yeah. I'm getting the hang of doing a little bit of green stuff here or there.
Yeah.
Are these for use on the tabletop?
Yeah. It's for these ones are for Jason. You know, bringing back wargaming.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. I sponsor their channel basically. So I've painted up Richard's Blood Angel army, which is what I'm doing these Terminators for as an addition for that, and then I'm doing an Emperor's Children themed Chaos Space Marine army for Jason.
Well, having played fantasy since 1983, but never played 40k, I understood the word army in all those comments.
Right.
The blood devils and all the rest of it. Well, that's very interesting.
Yeah, well, Blood
I
Angels are
deliberately said devils
basically...
instead of angels.
Yeah. Well, Blood Angels are basically vampires in power armor, to be fair.
All right, there you go then.
And Emperor's Children are Slanesh.
Oh.
So they've got some. So it's all like they're like bright purples. What that most of the color scheme's based on, but it's there's some more interesting models to come with that in the future.
Well, that reminds me,
Nice.
I've got a purple painted regiment of storm vermin that I've got to base. I'd forgotten about that. I don't think it's written on my list of things to do. I might need that soon. Originally for Erlach's army, the guy was on earlier. So we've got a different player playing Skaven now. His elite regiment were just clan rats, but they were his bodyguard regiment, and they were in yellow, which I reckoned, I thought that's the perfect colour for them. That's the colour of bravery when you're a Skaven, is yellow, because yellow marks you out on the field, makes you a magnet for war machines and missile fire. So therefore, yellow is the colour of courage. Any Skaven regiment that's willing to mark itself out amongst the red-clad masses is obviously very brave. But it turned out it made no difference to the fighting capability, and they ran away just as often.
As is the way.
So we've gone for purple now with the new guy, Lord Kralk.
No, that's a name.
I like these guys I'm painting because they're wearing helmets that cover their entire face. That's the one part of painting I hate. I hate doing faces. So I won't have to do any faces. Hey!
Nice.
See, faces are one of my favourite parts to paint, to be honest.
You try painting in enamels for 40 years and tell me faces are easy to paint. I mean, I'm using acrylics now and I'm realising just what you can do with faces. You don't actually have to do cartoon blob versions of faces, which have nothing to do with the actual sculpt. You can actually put washers on and see the real face that the sculptor meant people to see. But I've got entire armies of faces that are my own, crudely daubed enamel face that's got nothing to do with the contours of the lead underneath.
No, I mostly, like, by the time I came into the hobby, my only experience with enamel paints was Airfix models.
Yeah,
because the little tins of the enamel paints used to come with those, because that's how I first got into like modelling of just generally.
same here.
Through that, but then I found, by the time I was early teens, well, just before early teens, about 12 is when I found Games Workshop and found acrylic paints. So I had very little, like, I didn't like Airfix models weren't really, it's not the same, like, it's not painting faces, is it? That's, painting an aeroplane, painting an aircraft carrier, something like that. That's doesn't require the level of detail that a face does.
Except in our garden wars, we had literally thousands of 1/32 scale soldiers, from Middle Ages to Napoleonics to World War II to sci-fi. We painted a lot of faces, but back then I used to just paint the faces one colour.
Yeah.
They were toys to us then.
Yeah. Well, so when did acrylic paints become a main thing then?
I don't know, because as I say, I was so set in my ways and stubborn, I just ignored they existed. And now my memory's really hazy when that ignoring they existed started. I can't remember when I started ignoring them. I thought enamels were, I don't know, I must be against change. I must have a problem with change. But I just thought, well, I'm using enamels. I've learned how to use them. You don't have to prime them. You don't have to varnish them. So I stuck with them. But boy, do they eat brushes. And after 40 years of it, I thought, I have been in confined spaces like this cellar I'm in now, this dungeon. I've been in confined spaces with white spirit, probably slightly too often for my general health. So I thought I need to change because I can't do another 40 years. I daren't Google what happens to you if you breathe too much white spirit, because I'm a bit of a hypochondriac and I'll start imagining all those symptoms.
See, that's what made me laugh. I'll always remember it when I was younger and when I first found out about Games Workshop. My mum was dead against me getting into it because the models back then were lead.
Yeah.
But, when I look back, I realised this a few years ago. Like, she had no problem with me doing Airfix models, which, like I say, that's enamel paints. I was using thinners since I was probably about, 7 years old.
Yeah.
It was when I first started using them. And, you got no idea about, my idea of health and safety was opening the window.
Yeah.
We were melting lead.
We were melting lead on the cooker in the kitchen to make Prince August soldiers for the first edition Warhammer, because we couldn't afford the official models, so we were using Prince August molds. Each boy in the street would buy a couple of molds, and then we would pass them around so that we could build our armies and such. Mum did complain about that when she realised what we were doing, and we had to go outside and use a Cala gas heater instead, because she thought maybe melting lead in the kitchen wasn't a good idea. But she didn't stop us doing it.
Love it.
I've got memories of the early 80s, having cleaned my first lead soldiers. For several years I'd do this. And I'd scrape the flash off with my fingernails. And then you'd be watching Coronation Street in the evening, chewing on your fingernails, tasting the lead that you'd scraped off the figures. So I think I must be utterly insane.
Hear?
Some theorise that finished off the Roman Empire. Too much lead. I am the fall of the Roman Empire, embodied in a man.
Early scale modelling is what did for the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
See, this is one. Did I hear this correctly? I can't remember where I heard this, but the way they basically used to make models before you had like green stuff or anything else like that, weren't they used basically by building up like lead and then melting it into shape and filing it into shape and everything? Was that how they were originally done?
Don't know. I don't know if I ever knew that. You're talking a long time ago, aren't you?
I don't know. I'm honestly not sure. I'm trying to think.
Well, how did they sculpt all those Airfix plastic soldiers, all the 1/72 scale, 1/32? What did they sculpt them in originally? Did they carve? Because they obviously had to make a sculpt in order to make the molds to turn out those plastic ones.
Yeah, they got to make the masters somehow. And like I said, I don't think green stuff or like 2-part epoxies were around. Well, I don't know when they were made. You know.
Well, I was using milliput on my Airfix figures in the very early 80s because I was converting Japanese World War II soldiers into 2-headed aliens, and I was doing all sorts. We were doing a lot with milliput back then. But that may have been a brand new thing, and obviously those soldiers have been around a long time. So how they were making them. You see, this is why Google exists. We would have had the answer now if any of us had bothered to just Google it.
Well, I can give you the answer, guys. I'll just wait for you to shut up. Let me get a word in edgeways.
Maximise the ignorance we show. Keep them talking. Let people know what fools they are.
No, also I wasn't there at the time, but yeah, Rick Priestley's interviews, and I interviewed Gary Morley. So basically, what happened was, from my understanding, back in the day, back in the 70s, they used to, like Danny said, they used to literally chisel out lead blocks, and just like chisel them out so they'd make a form of a figure, and that would be, and even Rick Priestley did it. Rick Priestley designed his own miniatures back in the day when Brian Ansell opened up his own company. What was that called again? Brian Ansell's company? The original one before Citadel?
What? Oh, I thought it's not War Games Foundry, no.
No, not War Games Foundry. It's like it's basically it was basically this. When he first started out in making miniatures, he formed his own company, which I can't remember the name of now. Anyhow, all the, like Jez Goodwin joined, and a lot of the other guys joined at that time, and he recruited those. That's it, Asgard Miniatures. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Kabla Clonk. So yeah, Jez Goodwin was there, and a few other guys who he sort of just transferred into Citadel Miniatures later. But basically, yeah, they would chisel out bits of lead with and soldering irons and all that kind of stuff. It sounded really crazy. I don't know how those guys did it, but they did it. And then, listening to Gary Morley, then they discovered milliput and used milliput for a long time until they realized that it wasn't particularly safe to use because...
But milliput's not safe either.
It's
the
prolonged
2-part
use.
epoxy, you can absorb it through your skin, can't you? Yeah.
I spent half my life with my skin covered in that stuff. This is getting ridiculous. How am I alive?
You maybe you're a ghost. Maybe you are a spirit.
I spent several evenings this week washing that off my hand, and I'd wait till the end of the night and then wash it all off with fairy liquid.
Wait till you have a blood test done. They'll come back with results saying, well, you're more chemical than you are blood right now, so we're not sure what's going on.
Funnily enough, I had a blood test last year and it came back normal, so maybe
you're all right.
Lucky. I'm thick-skinned.
Right. Yeah. So, and then until they've discovered green stuff, and when they discovered green stuff, they never went back. So that was basically the short answer of how that all sort of happened from what my experiences of listening to the guys talking about it.
So I now have to shift to green stuff and stop using the
if you can. We should transport you back into the 21st century, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, but well, I mean, I don't know how people use milliput these days. I've tried to use it not so long ago, and it's not the easiest material to work with.
I still use it occasionally. I use the milliput extra fine.
The grey stuff.
Is what it's called. They do a fine version of it. I have heard, I forget where I saw this, it was on another video. A good way of doing it is if you mix green stuff and milliput together, because then you kind of get you slightly get some of the stickiness from the green stuff, but you get some of the like, you know, when milliput goes off, it goes off like rock, whereas green stuff, when it goes off, it's got a slight rubberiness to it still.
Yeah.
So if you mix the two together, you get rid of the rubberiness of the green stuff, and you slightly lessen the stickiness of it as well. So it does still slightly stick, but not as much, but it dries a lot harder. I haven't tried it yet, but I did. I forget where I saw that. It was on another sculpting video on YouTube that I was watching.
Maybe I'll try that. The nearest I've got to that is when making scenery. I've bought pound shop plasticine, mixed up my milliput, and then added an equal amount of plasticine just to make it cheaper. And the end result, basically, I can't tell any difference. It's scenery anyway. It was, and it just bulks it out because milliput was quite expensive.
Yeah, that's still dried rock solid.
How did I get to 50 not knowing the dangers of white spirit and 57 not knowing the dangers of milliput? I mean...
You're spending way too much time in a cellar, Padre. I think that's probably the problem.
Unbelievable. I've got figures here in front of me now that I made within last month. They're based in milliput.
Oh yeah. Well, basing in milliput's great. I mean, you're not using it extensively all day in, day out. I think that was the kind of the health issue the other guys had. You know what I mean?
Only several thousand figures.
Yeah. Well, you're still with us now, so hang in there, mate. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Maybe it was because I only have had one cigarette that's kept me this healthy.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, there's some people who just have very unreactive skin, because I have it with I notice it with acetone, because I use acetone to strip paint off metal models, and I quite often don't think about it, and I don't bother wearing gloves or anything when I do it.
Yeah.
And the other day I was stripping these Terminators off, and by the time I'd finished, my hand was absolutely caked in just dried on like old paint and acetone and everything. And like when I wash it off, there's not even no wrinkling, no discoloration, no absolute nothing. And I've done it for years. Yeah. Like when I used to work in Sunseekers, I used to get you get rubbish on your arm and stuff like that. I used to literally dump my whole arm inside the great big gallons, like vats they had of acetone, and just wipe it all off and come out. And I've never had a thing, although I have heard, again, you're supposed to be able to absorb that through your skin, which is what causes the problem. So I might be like you, and for all I know, my internal organs are slowly failing from it. So if anybody's watching, right, this is not advice. I do recommend you wear gloves if you use acetone. Do as I say, not as I do. There you go. That's got to be responsible.
I used acetone when I used to play the part of Guy Fawkes. Instead of growing a beard for the part, I used to glue a beard to my face. Very expensive beard. And you had to remove it using acetone because that dissolved the glue but didn't damage the beard. So I would spend several weeks ending every day using acetone on my face to get the beard off. Right? And that's the only time in my life. I didn't realize it was dangerous, but I did know it messed up your skin, because it's the only time in my life I've used moisturizer. I used to then sit and put moisturizer on to try and neutralize whatever the acetone had done to me.
Yeah. See, it does absolutely nothing to me at all with acetone. Same with isopropyl alcohol, anything like that. Huh?
I used to lose my voice. A combination of, once I had the beard on, I couldn't open my mouth above wider than a certain amount, otherwise the beard might tear. So I'd try and talk to entire assemblies of children all day long, trying to talk through a mouth that I couldn't actually fully open. That strained my voice. And then I used to breathe acetone in close vicinity at the end of every evening. And by Friday, I used to be very ill with hardly any voice.
Jeez.
Acetone is the reason I'm on this stupid computer, because my good computer during lockdown, it was going to be my first ever video conference using Skype or something. I don't know what. But I thought, acetone cleans the things off my wiping boards and stuff really well. I thought, I'm going to have the cleanest camera on my computer. And I acetoned it and only found out when it completely frosted. It's made of plastic. It's not glass. So I completely melted my computer camera. So my first conference was just this myth, with me apologizing that I'd melted my camera minutes before the conference started.
Oh, that's funny, man. That's great. You definitely spent way too much time in that cellar of yours, Padre. We've got to get you out of there, mate. Save Padre petition.
These are only the stories I'm telling you. There's certain stories of my foolishness I'm not telling anyone. Where I thought, oh no, that was dangerous, wasn't it? I won't do that again.
Yeah, that's funny.
Bloody acetone.
Yeah, mate. Well, doesn't your wife use it every day, Danny?
Mostly, yeah. I don't think she uses it quite in the quantities that I do when I do use it. Because she'll just basically, I think when she uses it, it's basically just on like a cotton pad or something and using it to wipe stuff off. Whereas when I use it, I fill up cups and jugs with it and just chuck models in it and dunk my hands in it and all that sort of stuff. So,
yeah.
It's what monomer I think it is that she uses. One of the things she uses for her nails, I think it's called monomer. That is, I mean, I can handle solvent fumes and stuff. That knocks your head off. It's terrible stuff. I don't know how she does it.
Well, is that the stuff that you normally smell outside of like a nails joint? Like you got that really overpowering smell? Oh, mate, that's terrible.
The stuff. Yeah. You try being in the actual room with it. Oof.
Oh, mate.
Did you get questioned by the pharmacist when you buy the acetone?
No, we order it online.
Right. I remember being questioned and having to tell them I was using it to melt the glue on a false beard, but they wanted to know that I was. They're all tiny little bottles, but they thought I was.
No, these days you can buy it. These days, we can buy and buy like up to 5+ liters. You can buy as much as you want. Basically, just go on Amazon. You get it delivered to your door.
Does it strip acrylics better than Dettol?
Do you know what? I keep hearing loads of stuff about Dettol, and I have
that's all I've ever used. I didn't know acetone was an option.
Well, acetone. Don't use acetone on plastic models, obviously.
Oh, right.
Yeah. No. If you put plastic or resin anywhere near acetone, it'll destroy it within seconds, basically.
That's what it did to my computer. Lens.
Yeah. No. Acetone is only to strip metal model. Like if you've got metal models, it'll strip them brilliantly.
Wow.
But yeah, if you put plastic in there, it'll destroy the plastic models in, like within seconds you'll realize you've made a mistake.
Yeah.
And then if you put stuff in and don't realize, the next day you will realize you had plastic parts to those models, because I've done that a couple of times.
Oh.
Put the model in and thought, that's all metal. Put it in, and then you realise like the head's not. It's like, dear. That wasn't metal.
It's like something out of The Thing.
Yeah,
John Carpenter's version. Yeah, I think someone should do it. John Carpenter's version of like Chaos Space Marines. That'd be pretty cool.
I bet there's a million comments.
Probably, mate. Yeah, I'll get to them soon. I was hoping you're going to just talk at length there, Padre, so I can do as much painting as I can today.
Hey, I'm trying to limit myself here.
What other acetone? What other things did you destroy with acetone in your cellar there, mate?
No, you've exhausted my acetone stories, I'm afraid.
Right.
Yeah. I need to make a decision. These guys, they've got bare chests and bare arms, and then they're wearing some kind of vambrace. Actually, I'm going to do the lazy decision, but I don't know if the hands are meant to be skin coloured. Has anyone ever painted one of these things? Yeah,
I did a commission last year for those, and I painted them in flesh, like they've got like skin tones for their hands, mate. Yeah.
Do you think I can be lazy and just paint them as if they're wearing gloves and that the vambraces are part of gloves?
Mate, you just do you, mate. You just do whatever you want to do.
I'm doing that.
As my old mate from the Smoke Dungeon would say, do as you feel. That's his ending comment. I think it's a good one. Do as you feel.
Good. I shall. Talking about old figures and destroying plastic, my old Airfix figures, of which there are many, many hundreds. I mean, I didn't buy one box of Russians. I bought 3 boxes of Russians, so I could have an army of 100. Same with Americans, same with Germans. In fact, I had more of the Germans because they had to fight everyone. But I remember about 10 years ago picking up a box of the Napoleonics that had been in my mum's loft for decades, picking up a toy soldier, and it just crumbled in my hands. I mean, these things used to be so bendy that if you painted their muskets, they used to bend accidentally and all the paint would flake off. That's how bendy they were. And they turned into like the most delicate of porcelain. If you dropped them, they would just shatter. I had Timpo tents that I used to sit on as a child and they would spring back into shape. I couldn't pick them up out of the box without the plastic coming off in chunks, because where I was holding it couldn't bear the weight of the rest of the tent. And it dawned on me, when they came up with all these plastics, there's no way they could find out, oh, well, will these last 10, 20, 30 years? The only way they could do that is by not using them for 10, 20 or 30 years and watching what happened to their samples, which, of course, they couldn't do. Yeah. So, 30, 40 years on, here we are finding out this plastic just turns almost to dust.
Yeah.
Within half a lifetime. I've got boxes up there now where I'm thinking they're sitting there painted and whole right now, but how would I ever get them out, say, to display them? Say a museum said, oh, we want some old soldiers. How the hell would you get them out of the box without destroying them to get them on a shelf in a museum? It's insane. Yeah. I suppose they would have been subject to quite extreme temperature changes in a loft, because lofts are like ovens in the summer and like freezers in the winter. So, that may have exacerbated the damage done to the plastic. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we talked about that in our Discord chat, didn't we? About your miniatures in the loft.
I was having deja vu there, thinking, haven't I talked about this? My worry is, will this happen to the plastic, the hard plastic that Games Workshop figures and Perry Miniatures figures, will this plastic do the same in 30 or 40 years' time? Or is it just that old oily plastic?
Well, I mean, the skeletons I'm painting now, these are like the original plastic Citadel ones they released. Now, they've been around for, 35 years?
Yeah.
And they're perfect, mate. There's nothing wrong with them.
I think they'll be fine then. So, maybe it's because... Maybe the trouble is with those sort of waxy plastic ones, because you couldn't glue them with polystyrene cement or anything. It was a really weird kind of plastic. When I've done scratch building using that, I've come up with all sorts of techniques to try and attach things to it, because you can't glue it. It won't take glue. The polystyrene cement won't melt it onto another piece of plastic, and other glues just don't bond to it very well. So I've used masking tape. That was a good one. If you can get the masking tape around it, that then holds itself in place, and you then glue onto that. And I've sewn components on in various Skaven conversions, and then you just hide the stitching. But I've actually sewn models together to get over the fact that the glue won't hold them.
Right. And what did you guys do today? Because it's now your evening. What did you do over your weekend? Anything exciting?
Yesterday I was just editing, and then no, that's still good. Bloody hell. Okay, shit. And then what was it today? Work. Yeah, that's about it, really.
Okay, mate.
I went on a long walk with my two boys, dropped off in the vicinity of Grindthorpe. My oldest boy had come up with a 8-mile walk that would bring us home. He's in the middle of his GCSEs, what we used to call O-levels, his age 16 exams. But he wanted exercise today before he started his studying. So it's quite nice doing walks where the end point isn't a car journey. The end point is we are now home. It's a nice way to end a walk. So that's what we did.
Good stuff.
It's amazing. I know every road round here. Been on them thousands of times. And yet in the middle, there can be vast stretches of little paths and fields and woods that you're entirely unaware of, because unless you walk through them, you can't know they're there. The roads, you just see the hedgerows on the side or the cottages. So yeah, I've realised there's some really lovely. I mean, every time we do a walk around here, we find new paths, but I'm still amazed there's so many that we haven't found. So many woods and fields and little streams and such. It's amazing.
Good inspiration for the campaign, mate. Maybe, eh?
Oh yeah, campaign set in a fancy version of Italy. I'm not sure West Yorkshire looks very Italian.
So I'm going to have a quick look at some comments. Let's have a look. So we've got Asgard's. Sci-Fi recommends you get some vinyl gloves there, Padre. Might be a good idea for helping your hands from absorbing stuff. Not a bad idea.
I use them when I'm colouring Ruth's hair. And that's probably not poisonous because it goes in the hair. The only time I use the gloves is when I'm not using something poisonous.
Yeah. We've got a few comments that are generally commenting about a healthy mix of various chemicals is always good for people. I like to roll biscuit. Oh, here we go. No, there's a few ones about. What have we got? Admac, if that's pronounced correctly. Mix of Milliput and green stuff to either putty on their own for sculpting. I much prefer a mix of Milliput and green stuff to either putty on their own for sculpting. Yeah. Then we got Wigster 600. I like to roll biscuits out of 50-50 ratio of green stuff and Milliput before dunking them in my paint water. That is not a bad idea, but I suggest doing it with more oily paint water than acrylic paint water because it gets into the Milliput and green stuff a little bit better. All right, Bleentron, what was it? The Milliput and green stuff mixed for doing that. Oh, what was that? The Japanese version of blue stuff. What was it? Oyumaru?
Oyumaru, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. That is how for moulding. Because apparently the green stuff's good for getting the detail, but the Milliput helps it dry a lot more solid. Which is actually a pretty good idea.
I didn't realise the green stuff was good for detail. I'd got it into my head that wouldn't be.
No, green stuff, I do notice green stuff, you can get it a lot finer, but that's why I quite like the Milliput fine. Instead of the Milliput stand, you get like the ordinary Milliput, and then you get the Milliput fine or something, which is the one I usually use.
Ordinary's green, fine's grey. Have you ever seen the black Milliput?
No.
That I thought, I'll use that, and then I won't have to paint things black afterwards because it'll be modelled in black, and I can just paint on the top. My God, does that is the most stubborn thing. That takes ages to get off your hands. Absolutely.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Or, alternatively, it's just the same as the rest, but you can see it, whereas with a green one, you can't actually see that you've left a lot of Milliput on your hands. So that's the alternative explanation.
Yeah.
See, I do experiment. I just experiment with different kinds of Milliput, different makes of enamel paints, different kinds of white spirit.
Yeah. Emperor Jim asks if Padre can be on every Splatter Natter, please.
Yeah, come on, mate. You can join us every. Well, Padre's in our messenger group now, so Padre can jump in anytime he feels like it and has the time to. So yeah, you're more than welcome, mate. Now, was that Emperor Jim saying that, or Sci-Fi?
Yep, Emperor Jim.
Well, how about Emperor Jim join us as well? You're in the UK, mate. Why don't you come and say hello with us and have it paint Splatter Natter with us, mate? Let me know if you want to join us, and I'll add you to the group.
Oh, here we go. There's got a comment from Kubla Klonk, I believe. He uses BioStrip for stripping minis. I've heard of it. I've thought of using it. I've just not actually tried it yet. That is one I want to try. That's supposed to be very good, actually. It's good on plastic and everything, doesn't damage them. See, Bleentron says he uses isopropyl alcohol. I've tried that. I found ISO to be a bit hit or miss. Some paints it strips, other paints it doesn't seem to touch at all.
Right.
Then we got Tom Heaney. I hope I pronounced that right, mate. Use acetone and plastic sprues to make sprue goo. You can, yeah. I use that's probably cheaper actually than what I do, because I use the Tamiya cement extra thin stuff, and I just chuck. I chop up little bits of sprue and put them in a bottle of that. But I use the sprue goo. I only use sprue goo to fill in gaps of plastic models. I've seen there's a guy on YouTube actually that uses sprue goo to make all sorts of stuff, like make terrain, buildings. I think he's made models out of sprues and all sorts of stuff. It's quite amazing actually.
I now realise what you're talking about. I do that on a micro scale. I use polystyrene cement and mix tiny little shavings of sprue into it, and then use that to fill the tiniest cracks and things, rather than getting the milliput out. But you're obviously doing it on a much bigger scale.
Oh no, I probably do it on the same scale, but instead of like you say, putting the small bits of plastic onto like the model, I've got a pot of the stuff all mixed up. So it's you know the Tamiya. I like the Tamiya cement bottles because they've got the little brush with them. So you can basically just literally brush it over the gaps on the plastic models, and where it's plastic cement and the plastic mixed together, it also works as a glue as well.
Yeah. I've been putting a blob of glue on whatever the gap is, and then adding these little bits, these little shivers of plastic, really thin, and then just mixing with a fine brush, which is obviously ruined by the process, but I use the same brush. So I may as well use a needle, and then just mix it until it turns into this tiny little glob of what I now know is called sprue goo.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I've got.
All right. Wow.
Yeah. I mix up a bottle of it, because it's the stuff that comes with, like I say, undo it, and it's just.
Well, now I know it can be done. It's counterintuitive because I would have assumed doing something like that would just end up, the glue would just dry and you'd end up with this big lump. Never occurred to me it would just stay as glue as long as you seal it.
Yeah. That's why I like the Tamiya cement bottles, because, like I say, you just close the bottle up and it stays good for ages. And the good thing is that there you go. That's the stuff, the Tamiya extra thin. Like the green label. Yeah. And the good thing is that if for some reason it does start to evaporate off and start to go a little bit harder in the bottle, you just add some more of this and leave it, and it just remelts it and give it a good stir, and away you go, good to go again.
Excellent.
Tom's been awfully quiet. Tom, you still okay, mate? You there? Sign language again. Good on you, mate.
Could unmute to tell us whatever, and we'll put up with the strange sound, which was, what was it? A weird hiss? I can't remember what it was. We could put up with that.
Yeah.
How's that? Is that better?
It's like Lord Davros. Lord Davros has joined us now.
Is that the sound quality is no good? Is that right?
We can tell what you're saying.
It's a bit better this time, actually. It's not as crackly as before.
Oh, I took my phone cover off. So
yeah. You don't have any headphones, mate?
No, there's no port for headphones in my phone, and then
really?
I don't have any Bluetooth ones.
Oh, that's weird.
It's the way of the future.
Oh, right.
Computers don't come with DVD ports and such.
Right. No. Future phones, mate. I didn't know that. They don't have any ports for headphones. That's crazy, isn't it?
Here's an interesting comment. I don't know whether it's true or not. Sci-Fi72 says apparently Vaseline can be added to old hard milliput to revive it, or so he's heard. I've never heard that. I don't know if that would be true though, because milliput. Are you talking when it's been mixed? Because if you're talking when it's been mixed, I wouldn't have thought so, because it's gone off. But if you mean if it's not been mixed and you just like the two separate sticks, then yeah, I don't know, maybe. Just been organising dwarfs. Hang on, we got one from Dwarven Moustache Hobbying. Just been organising dwarfs. I have a good size metal gnomish legion for 3rd ed, 26 hands weapons, 28 great weapons, 12 crossbows, and a commander in a pear tree. On an owl griffin. My bad. Got to get carried away there. The dwarfs themselves will be oathmark plastics. Need loads of them. Have 2 grudge bearers and a cannon.
All right.
I have a friend in Glasgow who was a real fan of gnomes in Warhammer Roleplay. I think in the last Warstone, I got a scenario in there, but he, I think, did an article on gnomes in there as like a forgotten race that was there early on in Warhammer and then got forgotten. Certainly never seemed to get into Warhammer Fantasy Battle. Gnomes were there, I think, in the original Warhammer roleplay.
They're in 3rd edition because they can ally with dwarves. Yeah.
There you are. Wow. Mind you, that is a long time ago as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
We got a quick question here from Sci-Fi. What is the brush made of then for it not to turn to goo? I'm assuming you mean the one in the Tamiya bottle. In all honesty, mate, I don't know. I do know, though, that Tamiya cement doesn't affect all plastics. There are some that it doesn't affect, and it's obviously just that. I don't know. As Kraken Wake says, magic, chemical magic sort of thing. But yeah, it's just a sort of a plastic monomer, obviously, that doesn't react to the plastic cement. And then we've got the next one where Sci-Fi says apparently it's the 2 separate sticks. There you go. That makes sense. Yeah. So if you leave them in your drawer for ages and they've gone hard like they do, then mix Vaseline with it. Maybe that works.
I've had Milliput go very, very hard, kept for a very long time. Didn't know the Vaseline trick. And all I did was just work with it with my fingers for a long time, like half an hour, until finally it had returned to its original form. But my fingers ached at the end of it.
I bet they did, yeah. There we go. And from Dwarven Moustache, they did get added somewhere in the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th edition somewhere. And apparently, usually people presume they are halflings. And there we go. We're caught up on the chat.
Marvellous.
Okay, now, if you do want to play gnomes in 4th or 5th edition, you can go to our Herohammer Fanzine. I think it's in issue 1, where someone contributed an article about playing gnomes in Warhammer, and they supplied magic items and everything, the whole army list. So if you go to Herohammer Fanzine, herohammer-fanzine.com, go to issue 1, and you can now get your access to the like a fan-made gnome list for Warhammer.
Marvellous.
Unfortunately, gentlemen, I'm afraid I'm going to have to love you and leave you because I've got work at 5:30 in the morning.
Oh, okay, mate. You down the gym, are you? Or down...
Yeah, well, I'm off down to work. I've got to work. Start work 5:30 in the morning tomorrow, cleaning the gym tonight. So,
okay, mate.
My nice early start, so I walk as well. So I'll be up at 4:15.
Wow.
Oh, right. Okay, mate. Well,
night. Have a good night.
Thanks for coming on, mate. It's good to see you.
It was a pleasure. Good to meet you, Padre. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you again, Tom. And I will speak to you again soon, Josh, my friend.
Okay, mate. No problem. Oh, yeah. Okay. We'll speak to you again soon, mate. I'll get in touch with you, mate.
Yeah. All right, man. And see you later, chat. Bye.
Okay. Take care. See you, mate. Bye-bye.
Fare thee well.
I'm hoping Jonny Watson will come in and say hello at some point because he's over in Portugal at the moment playing golf. So, learning some of the local dialect, no doubt.
Portugal were on the Eurovision Song Contest last night, singing in Portuguese, which to people who don't know the language sounds a bit like Spanish, but according to Ruth, is nothing at all like Spanish at all. I said at all twice. Yeah, it's nothing like Spanish squared.
So does your wife speak Spanish?
No, Italian and French, but she
Ah,
can
right.
recognize Spanish. She can get by in Spanish. She used to work for a breakdown recovery service. And if you broke down and you were British, if you broke down in Italy or France, she would arrange the mechanics because the mechanics often couldn't speak English. But the trouble is, on night shift, she was the only one there. So she would just get handed over anyone, anywhere in Europe. So Polish, Spanish, German, yes, give them to Ruth. So she'd somehow try and get by in all of them.
Wow.
She, I'll come up with my own versions of Italian phrases or whatever for Tylea, and I'll try Google Translate. I usually try and flip them backwards and forwards, and I hope that they'll stay the same. But I'll run them by Ruth if I'm not sure. For example, I was saying "ratto uomo" for rat man, and an Italian told me, "Yeah, that works. It sounds strange in Italian. It should be uomini ratto or rat men. It should be men rats, not rat men." And he said that sounds more natural to an Italian. So for the videos, I made sure everywhere I'd written ratto uomini, I changed it into uomini ratto. Put it the other way around.
Uomini ratto. That's my first phrase in Italian. Thank you very much, Padre. Feels going to come in handy.
Yeah.
Buongiorno. Uomini ratto. So it's saying with a Japanese accent, actually, more than an Italian accent.
We were doing guard duty a couple of weekends ago on a reenactment campsite, as in not in-roll guard duty, but late at night guard duty, where you need someone on the campsite gate just to make sure there's no nonsense. And I went through the manual that was provided there and noticed there was a big gap, that there was no phrase guide for how we would greet foreign dignitaries from various countries around the world. So we had a long conversation during our duty trying to work out all the different languages we could cover in case a consultant surgeon from Denmark arrived, or a mayor from Switzerland, or an archbishop from Peru. You know, just how many of these visiting foreign dignitaries on a field in England in the middle of the night could we actually greet appropriately? No dignitaries arrived, so we didn't really have to worry.
But what will be guarding? Sorry,
a reenactment campsite, not like an in-roll thing, like a living history thing. This was us at night when basically all the reenactors are just in the plastic tents and the caravans and stuff. You still need someone to do some actual guarding, because obviously it's a big campsite full of reenactors, and you don't want people wandering onto the campsite. Yeah.
No.
We were provided with a 2-foot length of cane, thin cane, so we presume that was what we were supposed to use if anyone did invade the campsite.
Right.
We'd left all our muskets and swords back locked away, but we did have a sturdy piece of thin cane about 2
Sounds
yards
like a live action Tylea episode there, mate, with the how do you say rat man again in Italian?
Uomini ratto. They're men rats, not rat men. They're men rats.
Yeah, men rats.
Yes. Unless the Italian was just having a joke with me, and now they're all laughing amongst themselves that I was saying it the right way around, and they tricked me into saying it the wrong way around. That would be very clever. I also pronounced Tylea wrong. It was only after I produced the videos that I found out everyone else in the world says Tylea. It was too late, so I had to carry on calling it Tylea. Oops.
But because it's an Italian sounding word, isn't it? So the Italians would say Tylea, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
They'd pronounce it like that, wouldn't they?
Well, I was thinking Italia. So
Ah, of course, yeah.
That's probably why other people say Tilia. But to me, Italia sounded made it. I don't know. To me, I just thought Italia. No, I should say Tilia. That to me sounded closer. But I don't know. There's so many millions of comments. There's no way you could keep up with all of that. Oh, someone's just said it is Uomini Ratto. Yay! Unless they're part of the joke. Thank you, Novas.
Novas. Okay, good. There you go, mate. Got an Italian viewer. Or,
There's a few Italians watch Tyler's Troubles.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, we'll go through the comments in a minute, mate. I'm just trying to finish off this one skeletal horseman. Then we'll get into it.
I am so set in my ways. Here I am with another company of wood elves, and I'm painting them in green clothes, just as I always do. I'm the most boring painter.
Well, they've got to meld into the forest, mate. So green is the way to go.
It is, unless it's autumn.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Back in the day, I saw a few armies that were painted in a summer theme and an autumn theme and a winter theme. I like the look of those. They were nice. But I've gone with green over the years.
Yeah, Tom, what do you want to say, mate?
Have you always based them the same way, or have you switched up your basing?
Is that for me?
Yeah.
Yeah. My basing is the most boring basing in all of creation. I base with just a black edge. This is a little halfling who's herding some dogs, and I just put flock on. The reason being is when I make my pictures, I hide all the bases with flock. So I want the bases to have the same flock on them that I'm going to hide all the bases in. It doesn't work in city scenes because then I'm hiding them in gravel. So I just have to make sure the gravel goes over the flock. But most of the time, I'm hiding them in flock. It also means if you make your movement bases out of flocked cardboard, they go on there quite well as well. It's hard to hold this so you can see it without them all falling off. That's Halfling War Dogs. But yeah, it's the most boring basing ever. What I do find is if you get a figure like some of the more modern game Warhammer figures, I had a pirate ogre called Karl who was in the campaign, and he had some sort of rock or branch or something. I can't remember exactly what now, but integral to the base. Now, often I cut all that sort of stuff off. But if you leave it on, it means whenever he appears in a story picture, wherever he is, this same branch has followed him there, and he's standing on it in exactly the same manner. And that's quite frustrating. So I try and make the most boring bases quite deliberately on every single figure.
It must look amazing having all of the models, because I find that you can paint them completely different, but as long as the basing is the same, they fit in.
Yeah.
Nice enough.
Yeah. Every base in that flock with black edges all the way back to the mid-80s. Entire armies. It's very unifying.
Yeah, I've found that I've painted quite a few armies and I've based them different every time, and now I'm having quite a bit of regret about that.
Right.
Never mind. It's an excuse to get another army. Yeah.
Well, in our Thailand campaign, there's so many mercenary factions, and so many of the city-states are using mercenaries. Thank God all the bases of all my armies are the same. You know, when someone hired the Sons of the Desert, an Arabian mercenary company, obviously the name was lifted from the Laurel and Hardy film, which is one of my favourite films. But anyway, they fought alongside the Remans and Pavonans, and everyone's on the same base, because even my Arab, you'd think, oh, you're painting Arabs, you should put them on sandy bases. But no, because they're going to be on the same fields as these other figures. So stick to the same base every time. I remember once. Oh, sorry, carry on.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, I think it takes such a lot of willpower to do it, to stick to the same thing, do you know?
Yeah. Or just being set in your ways. I mean, I was doing it before I was making the videos. But once I started the videos, I was thankful I'd done it that way and realised I never wanted to change because it was really helpful. Yeah.
How long does it take you to set up a shot? If you're sprinkling flock on the bases, it must take forever.
I don't talk about it because it'll turn out that when I brush up all the flock, someone's going to tell me that breathing flock dust is highly poisonous as well. I daren't actually talk about it. I don't want to know how many dangerous things I've been doing in blissful ignorance. It can take a long time. Certainly if you're doing an entire army on the march. I once set up several hundred Disciplinati di Mor, the Morite cultists. I'd used Frostgrave cultists. I'd used flagellants from the plastic ones, the metal ones, all the old Games Workshop stuff. I had loads of stuff. I had new recruits, entire regiments that were kind of peasant figures, but done in the same colours with a few crazy heads in amongst. Anyway, I had them disappearing off into the hills, marching in columns in units of 40 and 40 with a war machine there. And I in effect covered the table with flock, and it was a war games table, a 6 foot by 4. I don't think I went quite to the edges because I didn't need to, but you do that a few times, but then you spend a lot of pictures where you're thinking, how can I do this? How can I make this a satisfactory picture with the minimum number of figures? I mean, it's great when you do a picture of someone on a wall because you can't see the bases if they're behind the parapet, or someone in a room. I can put everyone in a room is always standing behind a table. They need to be standing behind a table. I have so many tables because then I don't have to try and edit out the base. As Fritz, who I think I don't know if he watches Crown of Command and so it was on the Discord and such. From Forge and Brush, Fritz the American, he was saying that, and I hadn't thought of it, but in several of the pictures where I'd edited out the bases where they were standing on floorboards, and obviously my flocked green bases didn't work, so I edited them out. But he pointed it out. Once he said it, I couldn't unsee it, and I had never noticed it before. He said, "Oh yeah," he said, "they look like they're floating a bit, don't they?" And I thought, "Oh no, of course." Most of the time they don't. Every now and again, they do look like they're floating because I've just edited out the image and extended the floorboards right up to the feet and then carefully painted around the edge, and then there, you've got him. Every now and again, there's something about the position that makes it look like he's floating, admittedly without a shadow, but nevertheless floating. So if Fritz hadn't told me that, I might have stayed blissfully ignorant of that for all of time, but now I know.
Okay, well, Fritz is here with us, mate. So,
oh, is he? Marvelous.
You talk to the devil, and here he is. So,
that's insane.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? It's nice, eh? So that's great to come and join us.
Hang on, that's like summoning a devil.
It is, yeah. The great spirit from the cellar has spoken, and here he is. He's just an apparition. Okay, now I think Danny went through most of the other comments, so that's good. It frees me up to do some painting then, so that's great, guys. Thank you very much. Thanks to Danny for doing all that.
Dwarven Mustache did say, indeed, breathing in flock dust is poisonous for you. Now, I don't know if he said that before I said it, but I bet he did.
Well, you seem in good health, mate. So you should be fine. It's probably preserving you, actually. I mean, if you came out of that cellar permanently, mate, it'd probably do you more harm.
Yes. I do feel a bit like a vampire. I'm a troglodyte living down here in a pit.
That's a great song too. Who sang that? It was some Swedish group or something, I think.
What sang a song about a troglodyte in a pit?
Yeah.
Weird.
No, not the troglodyte in a
dream
pit.
that?
No, it was the title of the song is called Troglodyte.
Oh, right. I see.
Crazy Swedes.
All right.
Someone will probably probably post up soon. What
There's
the
a
name
song
of that
called
band?
Zombie. That's that Irish singer, isn't there? Zombie.
Oh, that's a really old one. That's from like the 90s.
Yeah, I'm 57 for God's sake. It feels like last week to me. Dwarven Mustache admits he said it after I voiced my fears. Let's face it, breathing in any dust isn't good for you, so it probably is poisonous.
Yeah, I think I've sort of like I used to airbrush everything, all like primer miniatures with an airbrush, and then I did a massive airbrush session years ago, painting some terrain, and I was wearing a mask, like a surgical mask kind of thing. And then when I finished doing that after hours, you could see all the paint on the outside that you're breathing in, because it was even with I was even using a like a fan ventilator thing, when you use like a spray booth, and it's ventilating all the paint air out. So even using that plus the airbrush, it was still I still had paint on the outside of my mask. So I've sort of kind of stopped doing that as much nowadays. Okay, Angry Tabletop Nerds here. Nice one.
I dodged a bullet then, because in 1986, age 18, I got a I forgot what they called them. What do you call them again?
Airbrush.
Airbrush. Yeah, senior moment. I got an airbrush.
But that sound like you're a long way. It's too modern for you, that word.
It broke very, very quickly because I was using it with enamels and white thinners or turpentine, and luckily it clogged, and I just couldn't fix it. It's probably a good thing, because I really shouldn't have been airbrushing with enamels and no mask.
Yeah.
It was I remember it being very expensive at the time, but it was so fiddly to use that when it finally clogged, I was kind of glad. I tried to fix it, but I was kind of glad, and I just went back to my old methods.
Oops. Yeah. Okay.
You've got some Japanese on the comments that you'll have to try and interpret.
Yeah, that's your old mate John over at Angry Tabletop Nerd YouTube channel. He's always saying something in Japanese to me. Let's see if I can try to decipher what he says here. Yakabu tsuwa yameru. Watashi no. Oh, okay. Now he's driving somewhere. I think he's saying he's in the car. I don't know what time it is over there in the United States. It must be really.
They're 6 hours behind us where Fritz is. So if it's 10:30 here, it'll be 4:30 there. That's on the East Coast.
Okay, I think he's mountain time, whatever that means. I don't know. It's too complicated.
Mountain time. I promised to answer any questions that came in about Tyler's troubles, but
yeah, you guys got to ask the questions, guys.
I might have missed them. That's the trouble. I'm painting and babbling. And
no, you're right. That's good, mate. It's fine. Now we haven't missed any questions, because if they did flash up, mate, I would have told you. So
good stuff.
No problems. Mind you, they're going to be probably like really health related now. Like how long have you been breathing in flock 4 and that kind of stuff? They're all worried now. You become some kind of health guru.
I think I'm good. Something would have shown on that blood test a year ago.
Yep.
I've got I've just put out 7 individual players' reports. That was a lot of writing and a lot of faffing around, checking army lists and supply points and blah, blah, blah. I've now, before I put out my next video, it might be delayed. I've been getting them out nearly every week for a little while, but I really do need to write some actual new stories, because whenever I do end of season, what I call the individual player end of season reports, I tend to, as I'm writing them, I come up with the ideas of what I can do for the public report stories, you know, the ones that will eventually become videos. So I've got some ideas, and I need to start doing some stories with all these new figures I've been painting. I want to get the halfling war dogs in a story. I want to get the human slaves that are being driven by these Skaven into a story. There's loads of figures I want to get into stories. Trick is, it's still got to be an interesting story.
That's it.
Yeah.
Can't just throw them in there willy-nilly. Like Games Workshop advertisement.
I did one battle report that was 4 little boys, one of whom had witnessed the battle by sneaking onto the battlements. So we'd done the battle as an ordinary battle. It was ogres trying to intercept a load of peasants and citizens and baggage, and a few Pavona soldiers who were making their way into another town, Astiano. And it was a scenario game in that the town was being defended, but the idea was, how much of this can you capture? The baggage was worth the supply point. The women were carrying enough stuff that was worth half a supply point, etc., etc. So we did the game, and that was great. But one of the players, the human player, Guido Baldagondi, of course, the Pavonan, well, he wasn't actually there, his character, but his governor was just as nasty as him. He'd done all sorts of terrible things. He'd shut the gate on the women and children before they could get in, because he'd worked out in cold, hard points the Hellblaster volley gun he'd managed to drag in moments before was worth more than what the women were carrying in points, and he'd rather have the points for that than risk losing that, in rescuing the women, because the gate would be open, the ogres could get in. So I thought, how do I write this as a battle report? So I thought, I'm going to have a little boy who was watching. So I did the whole report was him recounting what he understood was going on, which of course was a really strange way of presenting a battle report. Very, very different to the kind of turn by turn and measurements and dice rolls and talking about the rules that you get in your ordinary battle reports. But I really enjoyed doing that. I'm trying to work out, every time I do a battle, I think, is there another really weird and odd angle I can come at this report from? But a lot of the time you can't. You just think, no, I'm just going to report it as a story of a battle and stop worrying about viewpoints and characters who can be recounting it. But that one really lent itself to that. Of course, I had to buy 4 little boys and paint these figures and stuff so that I could create the scenery of the place where they were telling the story to each other. So you end up doing all this extra work.
But I'm sure it's worth it, mate, in the end for your viewers. Yeah.
It comes to something when the human Tylians are more villainous than the ogre Tylians.
Right.
Very Machiavellian. They really are. I believe Tom has frozen. Either that or he's doing the trick where he pretends to be frozen and he's doing it incredibly well. I used to do that trick. I would just suddenly go.
He's gone. Yeah. internet connection, mate. Let's say.
In the hope that people would think he's gone. All right, bad. Right, he was on a phone, wasn't he?
Yeah, on the phone, mate. Yeah.
Uh,
PC's the way to go. PC's the way, mate.
yeah, maybe he melted his PC lens with
Yeah,
acetone as well, trying to clean it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, making good progress on this undead lot from a good friend David over in the States. And yeah, got to say, like, as we were talking about before, these model kits are 35 years old, these plastic skeletons, and you would never know that. I think they're still the best undead models ever made.
Yeah, I have quite a few of them. I've got a regiment of about 30 of them with swords and shields, and a regiment of about 40 where I gave them extra long spears, not quite the length of pikes, but I lengthened them so they'd look that little bit more Tylean. Yeah. I used to paint them black and then paint every individual bone because I was working in enamels. Whereas now I've found with the washers and things, you can get amazing detail without in a third of the time, if that. So I wish I'd made the change to acrylics decades ago.
So what made you change from the enamels to acrylics then, mate? If
you know the answer, the poisonous nature of turpentine and white spirit. It was literally health reasons. I just thought I really probably shouldn't be in an enclosed space breathing. It's because you have to wash your brush. You have to clean your brush between every painted figure. You know, it's such a different experience is working with enamels. It dries on your brush so much quicker. So I was just fiddling around with white spirit and tissues covered in white spirit for ages. Hang on, that's the wrong green. I'm getting the wrong green out. Oh, could he have a different coloured green cloak? Yeah, why not?
He can have whatever he likes.
Yeah, he doesn't have to have the same green as everyone else.
Nah.
There's no uniform in the forest. Oh.
That's exactly right, mate. If anything, they should be like camouflaged.
Yeah.
So different greens be better, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, I usually do that. I usually just, even if I've only got one green, I'll paint that, then I'll do that with some yellow in, and that with some blue in, and that with some red in. I just keep so that they are all in green, but everyone's in a slightly different shade. I remember painting some Arabian black guardsmen. They were all clad in black, but every item of black clothes is black with a tiny bit of another colour into it, which the end result was too subtle to notice, but at least I knew that every black was a slightly different shade to every other.
Actually, that reminds me, maybe you've watched this movie. It got recommended to me through Facebook. There's a Facebook page that goes through like all these swords and sorcery movies from the 80s.
All right.
I think it's called Hearts and Swords or something like that. I got to find it.
Well,
maybe you've watched it. It's got one of the dudes like that's from like Days of Our Lives, the 1980s and 90s in it. He's one of the guys in it. Let me see if I can just find it here. Hearts and Steel. Is it Hearts and Steel? Let's try that. Hearts and Steel.
Hearts and Steel.
I think that's what it's called.
Heard of Sapphire and Steel?
No, it's not that one. Bugger. Okay, let me just go through my history. It wasn't so long ago when I watched it. And if anyone hasn't watched it, you should at least give it a go because it's free on YouTube and you can watch it anytime. And yeah, it's just a really old B-grade movie. Maybe Angry Tabletop Nerds watched it. He likes all those kind of movies, those B-grade undiscoverables. He may have watched it.
Damien, one of my players, has just pointed out, hey, I'm nice. As in, he's not Machiavellian and evil like every other Tylian lord.
He's going to stand up for himself. That's good to see.
Yeah. He might be nice, but he also always seems to have... He's very clever at marshalling resources and forging alliances, and he never enters a field where he's outnumbered. Oh, no. He's always in charge of the biggest force. Yeah, he knows how to do it. Don't mess with the Porta Majorans.
That's it.
Unless, of course, he's marching his army away from home, which I think is going to become evident in the next few videos. His homelands do suffer a bit as a consequence of him not being there to marshal said forces. You're trying to find this film, Steel and...
Yeah, Steel. I think it was Steel. Hearts and something. Hearts. I thought it was Hearts and Steel, but it's not, I don't think. I'm still trying to find it.
It's not ringing any bells. I thought I'd seen all the films from... Fantasy films from the 80s, certainly.
Well, given how bad this was, it apparently would never. It never made it. Never made it to DVD either. So,
right.
I think if you didn't catch it in the cinema, if it was ever on the cinema, then you just never would have watched it at all.
But not even on VHS, not even on videotape.
I presume it made it to VHS. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, bugger, I can't find it. That's a shame.
Could you have dreamt it?
No, I definitely watched it, mate. It was recommended on Facebook. I found it on YouTube, and there it was, and I watched it.
Yeah, but you could have dreamt all of that.
No, I didn't dream it. I didn't dream it, mate. Honestly, you can vouch on that. Take my word for it. But I can't bloody find it unless I did it on a different account. Maybe that's what it was. Okay, let me change my other account. The Swords and Sake. Maybe I'll watch it on there instead.
As Sir William Petty said to Samuel Pepys sometime in the mid-1660s in a coffee house in London, how do you know if you're awake or if you're asleep and dreaming you're awake? And that discombobulated Samuel Pepys for a little while as he realised he had no good answer for that and therefore didn't know if he was awake or if he was asleep and dreaming he was awake.
Here we go, got it there, Padre. I found it. It was on my other channel that I watched. Let me just share my screen. You can see it there.
See if I've ever seen this before. Painting glasses.
Hearts and Armor. It's called.
Hearts and Armor. No, it's got an FBI warning. Oh right.
Yeah, but it's very B grade, dude. Very B grade.
Is it?
Yeah. But
like Hawk the Slayer.
For sure.
Hey, that's expensive armor. They didn't have armor like that in Hawk the Slayer.
So the basic premise is that this knight comes to help this woman, rescue her from being molested by these vagrants and criminals and that kind of thing. And she then, by touching his armor, turns into this mystical knight. Like basically, he's like a wraith. Right. So she becomes him, and she takes his armor, and she becomes this like this urban legend that goes around aiding people on the road and that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool. But in the background, there's two different knights. There's like the main knight household, and there's this Arabian area as well, where I think it's like during the Crusades and that kind of thing. So very stylized armor. If you like Excalibur, you'll really like this movie.
Yeah,
that's the kind of.
I'm going to try and find it.
Yeah. So Hearts and Armor, 1983. I was 9 years old when that movie came out.
83.
Yeah.
What was I? Approaching 60.
Oh, here you go. A few more TT questions for Padre. How often do your players meet for campaign sessions? Do you use a hex-based map for your army movement? Sorry, I would love to see a special video on the campaign mechanics.
All right. A hex-based map with pins.
Okay,
Can you see the hexes? Yes. Can't show you that in great detail because that might give a clue to the players. As I mentioned when I was talking to you, no one knows what the pins represent. They could just be scouts or ambassadors. They could be entire armies. But yeah, hex base map. And what were the other questions? Oh, I've lost the. Oh, hang on. Here we are. Yeah, battles. We only meet for the tabletop battles. We won't usually meet for small battles. Some of the really small ones or incredibly unbalanced ones, where a standing force of 200 points is facing in a supply center is facing an army of 3,000 points. Obviously, we don't play that game. We'll do a paper battle. So we only meet for battles. All other interactions, all other passing on of reports and orders and communications where they're having discussions with their NPC. Well, everyone else in the world is an NPC apart from the players, but with their advisors and their clerks and their officers. We do all that with emails and such or over the phone. I meet one guy in the pub, which is absolutely fantastic, and we plot all his ideas in the pub. He's driven so much of the campaign. But we play the battles when they occur, and I have to admit, there are some years, we're talking real world years, where we might only play 4 games in a year. Some years we've done considerably more. It is the slowest war games campaign ever devised and carried out by man. It's like the cricket of war games. Yeah, I ought to do a video on campaign mechanics. It'd be interesting. I mean, I wouldn't want to. I don't ever want to put out the actual rules because at core they're mighty empires, and I'm always really worried about things like intellectual property and copyright and such, because deep somewhere in it, although it's hard to recognize it originally started out as a very heavily modified version of Mighty Empires. But if I did a video about all the extra mechanics we put on, the mechanics that seem really important in the campaign, how we do the role-playing elements, and how we've added subsistence for armies in the campaign, which is the most important new thing we did with this campaign. In previous campaigns based on a Mighty Empires style system, we had armies bloated up to ridiculous proportions, so we could barely fit them on the tabletop. But if you use supply points to buy, to hire mercenaries or create new militias and new actual marching armies, but then have to use supply points every season to supply them, to give them their subsistence. Otherwise they become mutinous, or they don't follow orders, or they march slowly, or they refuse to move from home, etc. So that need to feed and supply every season has meant most nations get to a point where they can repair losses, but they can't really just double the size of their army because they can't afford the subsistence that would then be required. Although the more Machiavellian ones will create a large army, knowing that they're going to then use it in a not careless manner, but they're going to use it somewhat boldly, and they are aware that they are going to lose a lot of casualties. So they're planning on the depletion of the army by the end of a season, knowing that therefore it won't cost much to pay the army's subsistence, because a lot of the army's has been killed on campaign. But yeah, so a video on that would be interesting. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, mate. Well, that's a good one to put in the specials video category there in your playlist at some point, maybe.
See, Tom Heaney's asking, do you know what you'll be doing after Tylea's Troubles? Which I can combine with Dwarven Mustache's question. What do you think you'll do when the campaign is finished? Another one. I think we've just got some new players in the campaign. Well, they're old players that have moved on to something else. I don't want to tell you too much about them because it would create spoilers, because you'll know which player factions are going to be defeated in the next few videos if I tell you which players have switched to whatever. But we've got a new Skaven player, that's kind of giving something away, and we've got a new Tylean player, which is Lucini. It had been an NPC faction, all rooted in the history, though. We don't just make it up. I looked for an opportunity I looked for a character that pre-history of the campaign would allow me to introduce the campaign without changing the past at all. In fact, the past was informing the formation of this new character. With these new characters, and my son, my 14-year-old boy, Tom, has become the Halfling Lord of Verezzo. He's had practice games, but hasn't played a real game. So I definitely want to see it through for another couple of years at least and get some games in for these new players and push the story on. But what I'm no longer worried about, and I think we talked about this on the Patreon video, Patreon, I don't know, is I'm no longer worried that I need some sort of climax at the end, some kind of great victory for the forces of good or great victory for the forces of bad, for forces of evil. The idea is if I can get those games in and then end it at a point where it's obvious that Tylea is just going to be caught up in internecine warfare, threats from outside, threats from within, petty vengeances, etc. I'll be able to draw it to a close at that point without worrying about the fact that the wars are still going on, because by the very nature of Tylea, they will always still be going on. As for afterwards, I don't know. I have got ideas of how to do it again and to learn from this experience. I might not set it in the Warhammer world, but still set it in a kind of a low fantasy Renaissance setting. And I'm toying with the idea that'll allow me to use a lot of the figures I've painted, maybe convert a few and such, but it would give me this massive bunch of armies and characters and such I can use. Or maybe I'd come up with new individual characters for the armies. But as for the bad guys, I'm toying with the idea. I've been looking at various opportunities for figures. I'm toying with the idea of a kind of demonic threat, an army-sized demonic threat, legions of demons. So, yeah, I'm thinking of doing a game set in a kind of pseudo-Mediterranean Renaissance kind of fantasy world, and have something go wrong in terms of summoning demons or controlling demons, and this turn into opening a rift or something. A bit like the old book, was it Magician or whatever? But yeah, but it's very early stages because I've got this campaign to finish off, and I want David the Lucinan and my boy Tom and the other players to get some more exciting games in. The videos, by the way, the ones coming up, there's some lovely twists and turns coming up. There's some lovely twists and turns where people who have followed the videos closely will see how there were clues as to things for quite a long time. And that in hindsight, it kind of looks obvious what was going to happen. But really, you can only really see, understand what happens in. Oh, you can only, hindsight's the operative word there. You can only feel clever in hindsight. I don't think, I certainly, if I was an outsider watching them, I wouldn't have picked up on any of what I think are obvious clues, but turn out to be so subtle that it's ridiculous to ever expect anyone to see the truth behind them, especially when you've got players who are deliberately using propaganda and obfuscation and openly lying all the time. You know, there's a lot going on that is not what it seems. But it's what the people in Tylea believe because it's what they're being fed. It's what they're being told. Beyond just bias, not just that, but also deliberate twisting of the truth and such. So yeah, I want the campaign to go on for another 2 years or so.
Yep, nice, mate.
Subsistence for the undead. Oh, now you're asking. We had whole different rules for undead. What we did is he didn't have subsistence. What happened was he had no recovery rolls, unlike everyone else after a battle. So whatever he lost in a battle, he lost. Everything was dead. And he could pay to have necromancers and lesser vampires raise new forces, but he had to pay the supply points for that. But he didn't have to pay subsistence, whereas it was balanced out by the fact that other factions, if you win a battle, you would get a third of your half of your casualties back. If a battle was a draw, you'd get a third of your casualties back. And if you lose a battle, you'd lose everyone on the field and recover everyone who managed to retreat off your edge of the tabletop. So everyone else, after a terrible battle, if they won it, could still end up with a substantial force because nearly every regiment, unless it was completely wiped out, and if a character was overkilled, there was no recovery for him. But yeah, other people in battles didn't tend to suffer as badly as it appeared on the tabletop because they would recover a lot of those forces. So with Undead, I thought, right, I can't think how you would do subsistence with them, but we'll keep you balanced by saying if you fight a battle and you lose 90% of your skeletons and zombies, then after the battle, you're not getting any of those back. You're going to have to go off and raise them again and pay more supply points and raise them again. So it was swings and roundabouts. We do a lot of balancing in the campaign like that. Like the Skaven have a whole different subsistence system, which is called warp stone supply point. Do we call them warp? I think I lazily call them warp supply points. They work exactly like supply points for the Skaven, but he needs 2 warpstone supply points to turn them into a normal Tylean single supply point if he's trying to bribe someone or that sort of thing. So there's a kind of exchange rate going on there. When he loots a settlement, he doesn't get quite as much loot out of it because he gets the supply points in their Tylean human form or dwarf form or elf form. But if he wants to convert them into his kind of supply points that can become new recruits, Skaven recruits, basically they're worth half the value because every 2 normal supply points becomes 1 warp supply point. So every faction has the individual rules like that. Yeah.
Nice, man.
Dwarven Moustache has been listening to Magician. Yeah, I haven't read that since the 80s.
Oh, right. Who wrote that book, Magician?
Did we not have this conversation? Was it Feist? No.
Oh,
David?
okay.
Or was it Eddings? It was one of those.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. I think Carnifex was talking to it with Ben. Yeah, Ben was talking to you about it.
That's it. Yeah. But I honestly can't now remember which one we decided it was. We had a debate over which one it was. I got it right the first time, but because we've now recently talked about both of them, the fact I got it right the first time is pointless because I've forgotten now. 2 names have been mentioned. I'll be left for the rest of my days not quite knowing which of those. Yeah. Mind virus.
Yeah. Good on you,
Oh,
mate.
it is Raymond Feist says.
That is Feist, is it?
Yeah, it is. Yes. Yeah. I know.
Right.
David Gibb was asking about it. Oh, it looks like he's found it. Sci-Fi 72 told him about Big Small Worlds. So, yeah.
Good stuff. Yep. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
GG's
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Oh, sorry.
What I'll do, mate, I'll just put your link in the comments here. That's a good idea. Okay, let's do that. I don't know why I didn't think of that before. Okay.
Yeah, Tom Heaney's just said, I did mention on the Patreon thing, that's an idea for a video. I might turn a report I made on a first edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle game where we used only figures available in 1984 as if we were playing a game just before the second edition came out. I need to turn that into a special video. I'll do that. I'll turn that into a special video because the photographs exist and the text exists. So all I need to do is narrate over the photographs exactly what I do in the normal story. So I must do that. DG said, is there any plans to do a Patreon or Patreon? I still can't work it out. A Patreon for Tylea's Troubles. But I've avoided monetizing anything because it was always hobby and I don't want to tread on anyone's intellectual rights and such because it's set in Tylea and it is a corner of the Warhammer world. I don't think I'll ever do that. I've not monetized YouTube. I've not done a Patreon or anything. But if I was to do it all again, I'd set it in my own world and start again, and then I could look at those. And if it raised enough to pay for a pot of paint every now and again, because I mean the money I've poured into this campaign is ridiculous, but I'd have been doing it anyway. This campaign, half the videos that exist, in fact more than half the videos exist, had already been written stories with all those illustrations in a campaign I was running for friends anyway. So all I really did was turn something I was already doing into video, into YouTube. So yeah,
that's good, mate. I appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, if people want to support you, I'm sure they can reach out to you somehow. Do you have like an email address people can get in touch with you, or a website?
Well, if they contact me via the YouTube using the messenger there, the comments there and the messenger there, why not? Yeah. Someone's just asked. Weeks just asked. You mentioned reenacting. What period do you do? I'll give you a clue. This is a clue as to the period I do.
Oh, you got him on a roll now, mate. Got him on a roll.
If I'm pre-New Model Army, that's the bandolier I use. If we're representing New Model Army, that's the bandolier I use. I've just knocked my elves over with my bandoliers. Yeah, that's a clue. It's English Civil War, or British Civil Wars, I should say. Here I am, half Scottish, and I'm saying English Civil War. That's terrible, isn't it? Yeah.
Nice, mate.
No, funnily enough, Wiggs just asked if I'm going to Naseby. I can't. I'm working at a castle, being a 1680s highwayman hiding in the castle. So I also do it kind of as a living as well. So annoyingly, we went to the last one, me and my boy Tom, down in Wiltshire a few weeks ago, but we can't go to this one. I often can't go to the big reenactments on the bank holidays because they're the weekends I tend to work, reenacting all on my own. So, yeah, it's quite frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, your job sounds fascinating. Can you tell the viewers a little bit about what you do, mate, as a job?
Yeah, I mean, 99% of what I do is it's not castles and such. It's schools. I go into schools as historical characters, and that's why I was talking about being Guy Fawkes and having to use acetone to melt the glue on my beard. I nearly gave that character up because I'd get so ill at the end of the week wearing this beard and then destroying my voice with the acetone, until it dawned on me. I should have worked this out years ago, but I'm quite set in my ways. It suddenly dawned on me, hey, I'm a man. I can just grow a little beard all through October and never have to wear the false beard again. So Guy Fawkes is... I'll put my Guy Fawkes hat on. It really does make you look a lot taller, if I can find the hat. Oh, yes, here he is. Oh, yes. Now that's that is a hat. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah,
you should wear those during the live streams. That's funny. That's good. It's nice. Painting characters.
I have a selection of hats, as you imagine. This weekend, I will be in my 1680s, so they're not peaked, but I've got a purple panache, which I think is a good touch for a highwayman. Yeah. Oh, yes. A chance to get the hats out. Why not? Hey.
Well, it sounds like a wonderful job you got there, mate, Padre. That brings a lot of joy to people, which is really lovely, I think, especially kids, and teach them history at the same time.
It looks like Wigster was actually at the Wiltshire one. I wonder if he was there as a seal. Not. Wonder if I was fighting against him or alongside him.
Yeah, it could have been.
Hang on, every time I touch my phone to look at the messages, it asks me if I want to report the message. I hope I haven't accidentally reported several messages with my clumsy fingers. That's the story of my life.
The Spanish Inquisition you're playing now. So.
All done entirely by accident by an ignorant man who had no idea what he was doing.
That's all good, mate. No,
he's in Newcastle's regiment. Yeah, he's the enemy. Oh, yes. Yes, the Earl of Newcastle. He'll be interested. In fact, Carnifex, Ben and Emil, But they, I first talked to them on Discord, and I was preparing to go to a school that is on the battlefield of Adwalton Moor, where the Earl of Newcastle, before he became a Marquis, fought the Battle of Adwalton. So I had my, in fact, I can show you them. I had my, I did the morning enroll as a soldier, and the afternoon I put out a big map and marched the little soldiers around the battlefield so they could see exactly what happened. Whoops. And I used some really old stuff. Let's have a look. Here we go. I was using figures like that to represent men in bunches of 500 or 1,000. They're the musketeers. So, yeah. It was a nice visual way of doing it. One little lad, as he left, I actually heard him say that was amazing.
Oh, lovely, isn't it?
Painted in quite a basic style.
Yeah.
But yeah, you need to join several tables together, spread out the huge map of the battlefield, and then you you describe the battle, moving, pushing these things around the field so they can visually understand exactly what was going on. It's a nice way to do it. And it was Newcastle's victory, although he had ordered a retreat. He was going to run. If it wasn't for a man called, you'll never forget this name. This is a great name from history. A certain officer who'd served in the continent called Posthumous Curtain. I mean, that's a good name for a colonel.
Yeah,
Posthumous Curtain.
absolutely.
He pleaded with, this is the story, he pleaded with the Earl and said, look, just give me one last chance. I think I can defeat them. I can push them back. I can break them with a stand of pikes. So several thousand pike came down onto the vastly outnumbered army of the Northern Association, the Fairfax's army, and did indeed rout them. But if Posthumous Curtain hadn't made that suggestion and done that, then the Royalists were indeed presuming they'd lost and had already been given orders to retreat, and several units had already left the field of battle. So they were in the process of leaving the field, trying to save the army, keep it intact for another day. But then, because of one man's conviction and courage, they ended up winning the day and taking a lot of prisoners. And capturing Bradford. I mean, who doesn't want Bradford? I've always wanted to capture Bradford. Oh, yes.
And bend him over your knee, no doubt.
Yes.
All right, guys. Excellent. Now, how are we doing for time, mate? Do you want to wrap up today soon? Or
I will wrap up whenever
okay?
you want to wrap up. I'm not booked tomorrow. I've got learning to do. I've got some boys to take to school, but no, you just finish when you need to finish.
Okay, mate. We'll give it another. Let's see what time is it now? Apart from taking out the trash, that's all I need to do because my son's off school today because he had his sports day yesterday. So yeah, we'll give another 20 minutes. We'll wrap up in about 7:30, mate. So
No problem.
I'll give anybody a chance to come in and say hello, ask you any questions.
I'm glad I got a few questions on the campaign. That's nice.
Here you go, mate. There's another one from Gigi.
Oh.
Your question for you. It says, what are your thoughts on the old world as a system versus 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle?
Now, interesting. I can't give you an answer because I haven't looked at the old world. I have been playing Warhammer Fantasy Battle from 1st edition. I played 1st, 2nd and 3rd, stuck with 3rd through 5th and 6th, then played 7th and 8th. And in 8th, I am constantly getting muddled up. You'd think after running this campaign for all these years, I'd know the rules. But I constantly have to look things up because I keep remembering rules from previous editions. The last thing I want to do is add another knowledge of another set of rules, the old world, into my already addled brain so that I start thinking the new rules are the current rules. So I haven't really looked into it because it's like just too much information. It will confuse me. If we do, when we bring this one to an end, I will look at it and I might use that system for the next campaign. Provided I don't have to change several thousand figures bases to the new base sizes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I might just continue.
That'd be excellent.
I might just continue. I mean, as long as you've got a games master involved, as long as it's not two players and no one else in the room. If there's a games master there, there's a way of incorporating all sets and making sure everything's fair, you know, and if the rules create a situation that is just utterly ridiculous and all the players think, well, that just wouldn't happen, then you can do it differently. So yeah.
Well, this is my take on it too, because you know I make Warhammer Fantasy battle reports, but in a new style now, because I did the old traditional style. We just film and talk and do all the dice rolls and play out all the actions and turns and phases. But in this new style, it's done where I'm just taking certain clips and doing a voiceover. So in a sense, it's kind of like what you're doing. You're using still photographs, but I think the great thing about that is I could be playing first edition Warhammer or 8th edition Warhammer. It doesn't really matter because it doesn't make a huge impact on the actual gameplay in the video, because that becomes kind of defunct in a way, because you're just playing Warhammer. And unless someone picks out, oh well, you could dispel that particular spell because you can't do that with a scroll because we play Warhammer Renaissance, as opposed to 4th and 5th and traditional Warhammer. So it's kind of nice because it separates that from the gameplay to just being a story, and I think it's a nice way of doing it.
Well, I avoided. I mean, I do watch your standard kind of battle reports, but I just didn't want to do those myself. I wanted to do them storyfied. I know that the system doesn't intrude on the story, and this because several viewers have presumed for many years that I was using Warhammer 6th edition as the rules, and it never was 6th edition. It was always 8th edition. So it's not really obvious, and there is quite a difference in terms of the rules between the 8th and the 6th, but it's not obvious from the reports. Doesn't mean the reports are inaccurate. No, you're literally describing the story of events. You're just not intruding the rules mechanics and the dice rolls and the tape measurements, etc., into the process.
Yeah, it becomes irrelevant after a while, doesn't it, with that kind of format, which I think is quite nice. And it also means that if I do make a mistake or if I forget a rule, I can edit the video in a way that you'll never notice.
I just put it in the footnotes and such when we fluff a rule or we're not sure about a rule and such, because the players were there, they know the truth, and that allows me to have an element of your traditional battle report by including those kind of notes in the footnotes. So you can do it there.
Unless I want to play it on their propaganda.
Yeah. I also, when we take the photographs, I try and clear away any glasses, tape measures, dice. Every now and again, they get left on because I don't want to be too intrusive. I don't want to annoy the players by constantly demanding a clear table while I take pictures. Because as well as games mastering, I'm invariably photographing and making this copious scribbled pencil notes of what's going on to make sure that I'm not relying on my memory, which I don't trust at all. But very often things do remain on the tabletop. But it's really easy. When you take the photograph, you just edit it out. As long as it's sitting on a tabletop, you can just copy a little piece of the table next to it, a little patch of the table next to it, and then just plonk that down, paste that down on top of the offending dice, and they just disappear. So you can always do that. So you can't even see the dice in them. I think every now and again, once in a blue moon, I leave a dice. Almost, not like an Easter egg, but almost like just to remind people that this actually was a game that was played.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's nice too. I tend to do that in my videos too, because, you want to make sure that, you are representing an actual game that was played, not something that was kind of choreographed or scripted in any way. So that's important.
I will add pictures if I realise Very often, because I'm using a digital camera, after the battle, after the game, I'll realise a picture, even if I take several of them, they've all come out unfocused. I think, oh no. So what I'll do is I will repose the figures as best I can, and I will add new pictures to the report, usually using the same figures, hopefully on the same coloured table surface, etc. And very often with the earlier reports, now I'm turning into videos, I realise there's whole sections which have quite a bit of description in them and nothing that goes with the description. So again, I will add pictures. I tend to add close-ups, so I don't have to set up the whole battlefield. I'll do a close-up of a commander that you're talking about, or a close-up of the front rank of something, because you need something on the screen all the time when it's a video. Whereas when you're writing an illustrated story, you just write the story, and you can do as few or as many illustrations as you like during the story. With a video, yeah, I have found. But now I know I'm making the videos, I try and make sure I just go photograph crazy in the hope that I'll have something I can use.
Yeah.
For every moment in a video.
Okay.
David Gidd said posthumous curtain sounds like a Pratchett name. It really does. Do you know my favourite name from all of history? Or do you want to know, is what I should have said. Do you want to know my favourite name from all of history?
Yeah, go for it, mate. Yeah.
Right. There's a guy. His father was a man, a Colonel Barebones. And he was the colonel who stopped certain members of Parliament coming into Parliament to make sure that Parliament then voted the way that his faction wanted them to vote. And it's called the Barebones Parliament. For many years, I thought it was called the Barebones Parliament because it had been stripped to the bare bones. But no, it was because Colonel Barebones' soldiers were preventing people going in. Well, his first name was Praise God. So he was Praise God Barebones. But his name
really?
his name isn't the unusual name. He called his son, now I might not be saying this exactly right, but he called his son, "Had Christ not died for thee, thou wouldst be damned." That was his son's name. Had Christ not died for thee, thou wouldst be damned, Barebones. Now that boy grew up to set up one of the first kind of fire insurance companies after the Great Fire of London, where you would put a blue plaque on your house. And if your house or either of the houses on either side went on fire, then they would bring one of their fire engines and try and put the fire out. Now, Had Christ not died for thee, thou wouldst be damned, Barebones is not a good name for business. So he changed his first name to Nicholas, and his second name, I don't know why, but obviously he thought Barebones wasn't good for business. He changed his second name to Barbon. So you'll read in history books that Nicholas Barbon set up this fire insurance company. But they often forget to tell you that the name he was baptized with was Had Christ not died for thee, thou wouldst be damned. I think that's a good name. Me and Ruth are both atheists. I wanted to call our first boy Had Christ not died for thee, thou wouldst be damned. But she pointed out to me, no, we can't. We're atheists. I went, oh, okay, then good argument. We can't do it.
Oh, jeez. That's a lovely little nugget of history there. That's I had no idea about, mate. Bloody hell.
Don't think anyone's ever been called bloody hell, though.
Yeah. I've heard someone name their child Cigarette, which I thought was quite
seriously.
Yeah.
Again, did you dream it? Because I think you have a very rich dream life.
I could be dreaming right now. I feel that tired. I'll tell you now, mate. Absolutely.
Brilliant.
But we'll have to wrap it up soon, guys. Sorry, I've got a life to lead, and I'm sure Padre needs some bit of shut eye before tomorrow.
Yes. Otherwise, I'll be falling asleep when I'm trying to learn all my notes on Claude Duval and Captain Hind and all the highwayman stories I have to tell at the weekend.
So I'll switch my glasses over, and just shout out a few people. So I want to say thank you very much to Angry Tabletop Nerd for a $5 shout out. That's really nice. You didn't have to do that, mate. So thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. And who else got David Gibb? So this is a good question too, because I've discovered Padre's channel a bit later, like obviously well into the campaign. So yeah, I've watched a few of them. Is it best to start from the beginning? I think so. I think it's better to just start right from the very first video and make your way through. Would you suggest that too, Padre?
Yeah, it very much is an unfolding story. You can't rely on any character staying around, even if they're a great character, because if they die on the field of battle, they're dead. It's very Game of Thrones like that. But the whole thing works as an unfolding story. Entire factions die, new ones rise, but it is an ongoing story. And some of the characters, I mean, episode 3, I think, had 2 chancellors from the mercenary company, the Compagnia del Sole, the Company of the Sun, because they worship Myrmidia, and the goddess has the sun as one of her emblems. But Baccio and Ottavio, and they are in the latest stories. So some of the characters have been there all the way through, every now and again. So it is an ongoing thing. In fact, I wonder how much anyone would... No, they do work as standalone stories, because very often it is, you will meet characters just for one video, because that's the little part of the world you're getting in that story. So they do work as one-offs, but it is very much an unfolding story. If you can stand a Yorkshire accent like mine for many, many hours, then listen to it. But I certainly couldn't listen to myself talk for that many hours. I couldn't do it. So.
All right. So IU Go West goes and working on 20 Clan Rats, then 9 Giselles. Very good. Yeah, excellent. Good work. Yeah. Good work.
Giselles, some that my player's given me.
Oh, nice, mate.
I need to paint up for him, but to be honest, I don't, because we've got enough. We've got a stupid number of Giselles. His current army has 3 units of 5 Giselles, and we've still got spare Giselles. In fact, I modelled 9 fake Giselles, which were just the Giselle, and I can put 2 slaves next to them, and they become Giselles as well. So.
Right. That's a good idea too. Yeah, because people may not know that Padre has to paint models for other people too for part of the campaign. So he works awfully hard on getting these videos out to you guys and the games played.
These are for Peter over in Canada. He can't play the tabletop games, but he is Lord Veluthil Sarenmeyer of Tetter de Merdy Forest. So I'm painting elves for him. As I say, if he puts them in his army, they'll be for him. If he chooses not to have these in his army, then there'll just be some figures in my collection.
I'm glad you can say all these names, mate, because I'll be just stumbling over them. Those tongue twister of words that you have there, you can just roll them off your tongue. So you got the gift of the gab, as they say. I might be wrong, but did you mention that on the Patreon video that you might revisit the Warhammer Fantasy Battle first battle report you did on the Oldhammer forum?
Yeah, I was talking earlier about that. I think I will do. I'll make a special video. That's one of the ideas for special videos. I'll make a special video where I basically do that. There's one thing we got wrong. I mean, in the room, there was 4 players, me and 3 others. I went back to 1st edition. Some of them went back to 2nd and 3rd. But the one thing we didn't realise we were doing wrong until the very end is we were allowing fighters to step up. So if you lost 4 guys from your front rank of 6, we allowed 4 guys to step up, and you've got 6 attacks back. I think that didn't appear. I mean, are you aware of that? Because I think that came in 8th edition.
I don't know much about anything after 5th edition, mate. I don't know much about
it
in
at all. In 5th edition, if you lost, say there was a front rank of 6 goblins and 5 of them died, would only 1 fight back?
The step-up rule you're talking about.
Yeah. Would only 1 fight back in 5th edition?
Yes, that's right. It wasn't introduced until 8th edition. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Well, we played a 1st edition game, and the one thing we got wrong was the step-up rule. And that was what blows my mind is I played 1st and 2nd and 3rd and 6th and 7th, and that was how it was done. And yet, when we played that, we got so confused, and we'd been doing it so often in our recent games, we didn't realize we were still doing it, and it was the one thing that we didn't do, like first edition. So I'll have to say in the video, assume this is a reenactment of a game where a games master had house ruled a thing called the step up rule and introduced that in 1984.
It does make for a quicker game, that's for sure. I've noticed that in playing Warhammer Renaissance. It has the front step up rule in it, and it also has fighting in 2 ranks. And I think that it kind of balances it out in a way, because otherwise you're just fighting with 1 rank, and then if you kill the first rank, then you only got nothing to attack back, or only 1, as you say, and it really stagnates the entire gameplay, and it can be really one-sided otherwise.
It's one of those rules where once you get used to it, you can't believe that you played for 30 years without that rule. So much so that we didn't even realize. We just assumed, oh, well, we have to do that, because that's the only sensible way to do it. And yet we ourselves had played the previous way for decades, and it just went from our heads.
Now it totally makes sense, because when the 2 units join up and rank up, they're not just sort of symmetrically aligned. They're actually fighting amongst themselves, pushing in and going around. So it does make sense that people get an attack when people die. But guys, look, thanks very much, Padre, for joining us today. I really appreciate it, mate. Like I said, you're always welcome to come on any other Splatter Natter that we have. You're in the group, so I'll post up the link, and you can join us at any time. I think people really enjoy listening to what you have to say, and I get a lot of painting done when you're on here, mate. So that's great. You're welcome anytime you like. But thanks, everybody.
I got a lot of painting done as well. I'm not sure how, but
that's
I did.
Good, mate. That's good.
Yeah.
What did you finish today with your High Elven or Wood Elven?
Didn't really finish,
guy?
but I made progress. I haven't finished anything, but I've done the spear shafts, the cloaks, the boots, the flesh. They all need washing and highlighting, but yeah, I've done twice as much as I would have done by now if I was still working in enamels. Twice as much.
Yeah,
so it's great.
I'm glad you moved into the 21st century then, Padre, with green stuff and what else we talk about? Acrylic paints. Was there anything else?
Well, I'm going to have to start using green stuff. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much again for joining us. And if you're catching this late, you can always check the restream. I did post up Padre's link here for the Big Small World channel, but if you couldn't see that or find it, I was going to show it here. It's www.youtube.com/@bigsmallworlds. There you go. It's that easy.
Excellent.
Go and check it out, and go and tell Padre how much you like the videos, comment, subscribe, and like, and all the other good stuff. Okay, guys, so until next time, next week I'm actually going to play some games on Sunday. So I'll be playing Warhammer Quest. So that's the 1995 dungeon crawler with the guys down in Kashu in Japan here. So I'm really looking forward to that. So there may not be a Natter Splatter next week. We'll have to see. It could be an early one, like a Friday night or something like that for you guys. We'll have to check it out and see how we go. But until then, Padre, take care. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening there.
Will do. I think I'm going to bed. It's 11:30. But thank you ever so much for having me on. That was great.
No problem, mate.
It's
anytime,
weird being on a real video with moving pictures. Yeah, that's great.
All right, everybody in the chat, good night, take care, and see you again next time. Bye-bye.